hello. Checking that we're live. And we are live. Alrighty. Hey, Ryan. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Alex?
Good. I'm good. What time is it for you?
It is 9:30 a.m. in Oklahoma City, and the weather is looking like Oklahoma. It's a little. Who knows what's going to happen?
Oh, on the weekend, it was super humid here and I was melting
Where's there?
in Niagara Falls in Canada.
Oh, I think we met first in not in Niagara Falls though. It was some. I think it was not Calgary either. Was it Toronto?
Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, long time.
All right, we're getting people. Hi, Niket. Hi, Kumar. Hello, hello. Are you all excited to learn more about MuleSoft certification? Cool. Where is everyone coming from? Let us know. What time is it for you? Is it night? Is it morning? Did you have your coffee? Are you going to sleep? What's happening with you? Ryan is drinking coffee, so
Morning.
yeah, I have tea with caffeine. So yeah, also morning.
This is my first cup because I had a dentist appointment before this.
All right. I hate the dentist. All right. Well, we're getting people, I guess. First of all, Ryan, maybe you can let us know a little bit about your journey. What are you doing right now? What have you been doing before? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I guess one reason to talk about certification is, well, I was with MuleSoft. Well, I was involved with MuleSoft company when they came up with the idea of certification. So it's been a few years. I'm a MuleSoft trainer. Everybody, if you don't know, I do training right now. It's through Trailhead Academy expert-led trainings. It used to be just MuleSoft training, and then when we started doing MuleSoft training in like 20, I think I want to say 2014. It was a lot less. It was kind of a lot on me to make it up as I went along. It was just like I would go to a customer and they would say, "We want to do advanced training," and we'd be like, "Well, let's talk about what that means," and we would just make up the curriculum. So nowadays, you probably all know it's a little more set up than that. There's like actual classes, and it's been for many, many years now. So I've been along for the whole journey. I teach all the different MuleSoft classes, except for the RPA. I don't do that one. And I'm recertifying on data weave and RTF right now, but there's no all the new stuff around hyperautomation. I'm still not teaching those, but everything around Mule and AnyPoint platform, that's my bag, that's my thing. So there's certifications around those, and I used to teach for a couple of years. MuleSoft was doing these exam prep workshops, and I would come in on a Friday, and I would have a room full of 50 people, and we would just go through MuleSoft Certified Integration Architect, or we would go through MuleSoft Certified Platform Architect. I thought that was pretty cool, just as a way to get you over the last little bit. Like you got yourself 90% there, and you want that last bit of, you want to get those 2 extra questions right on the test. You want to, plus you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you should study. So I like those sessions. It's the certification group. They're moving stuff, right? It's going from training.mulesoft.com into Trailhead Academy and your Trailblazer profile. So I'm learning at the same time as you guys are learning about the way it's moving, but it seems like it's becoming more official to me. It feels like the direction is that they're becoming more formal with the whole process, including for certifying instructors like me. So there is a certification to become an instructor. It's not advertised on the website or anything, but that used to be very informal, very much interview process, but now there's actual requirements and stuff. So yeah, I don't know what we could share with the community about. I have a lot of experience around the MuleSoft training and education world, and I just thought if we came on this stream, I could help. I don't know what people don't know, so maybe I can help them and share with you guys something that'll help you on your own journeys. So I don't know if you want to put in the chat if you guys are getting certified soon or interested in it, or you don't even know about it, and we could start there. So
All right. That sounds awesome. You do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think I met you in a MuleSoft class.
In a MuleSoft class?
In a MuleSoft class, we were doing MuleSoft certified
Yeah,
it was either application networks or integration solutions architecture, one of the two. This was many, many years ago.
I think it was application networks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with Pravalica. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, so yeah, that's been my journey.
Awesome. All right. We haven't gotten anything in the chat yet. So let us know in the chat if you are getting certified, if you're planning on it, what certifications you want to do. So Ryan can help you a little bit better on that.
Yeah, I can start. Well, so originally there was just one. There was just MuleSoft certified developer, and I think that's the one most people know about. Like that's the one that I think is going to people are going to know what you're talking about if you got that one, and it lasts you 2 years when you get it, and you can renew after 2 years. And that one you can all take for free if you go do the self-paced training. I don't know if everybody knows this. If you go on the training.mulesoft.com, you take the self-paced fundamentals training, and you have to watch every video all the way to the end, even if you already know what that video says. It won't let you go on to the test unless you actually do them all. So you can fast forward though. But anyway, that one, if you get to the end of the self-paced training, you get a voucher and you can for free go take the MCD training certification. And that one, it's not an easy test, but everybody can do it if you've done a little MuleSoft like on your own, if you've worked on a project, or even if you've done some of your own. But I would suggest you build your own stuff. You do the whole training, or you take a training, but at least one time you build something yourself, a Mule application with some flows that does something. And I think that's going to carry a lot for you to be able to pass it. But all of you can go take it without paying money by doing the self-paced training. So that's the oldest one. That certification has been around for many, many years. And so it has the most reputation. People know about that. That MuleSoft certified developer one. And then last year they came out with a level 2. So now there's an MCD level 2, and that's way harder. But it means, hey, if you can pass that, people are going to, at least people who are in the MuleSoft, who are up, who pay attention to the training, to the certifications, are going to realize that wow, that was a hard one to do. Hey, Shauna, good job. You're getting certified. Yeah. I wish you well. If you announce on LinkedIn and I notice it, I'll put a like on there. So I usually do that. So that's MCD level 1 and MCD level 2. And that's it for the developer track. They came out with one this year, MuleSoft Certified Integration Associate. And it's not a development certification. I took that one to see what it was like about 2 weeks ago. And it was really like, it's almost like everybody who would come to the meetings, the project managers, the testers, even like the developers of the other systems, like the Salesforce developers or the database developers, they could all do what's in that one. So the MCI Associate one is more like, it's asking you about asynchronous versus synchronous invocation patterns, and it's asking you about REST versus SOAP, and just, do you know the language of integration design? And it really is just making sure that we all have the basics down so that we can do integration projects. So that's the MCI Associate. If you passed MCD, I think it's a short study and you could do MCI Associate, and it means something else. It means more like that you're ready to do work on projects, like to be part of projects. Where a developer, you can build stuff, So that's those. Of course, I've been waiting to the end for my favorites. I'm primarily, what I do most of my time is I teach architecture. So there's 2 architecture certifications. There's now 3 actually. So there used to be 2. Catalyst is the new one. So there's one for Catalyst, which is kind of like the associate version, really about the MuleSoft Catalyst product. That's how do you use Catalyst to design integration solutions and platforms. And that one is a shorter test, and it's new, and I haven't taken it, so I don't know what's on it. I don't know exactly what it's about yet. I focus my time on MuleSoft Certified Integration Associate, which has a unofficial reputation of being the hardest MuleSoft test there is, right? Unofficial. I think it's hard too. So, and then there's MuleSoft Certified Platform Architect. So integration architect, that's about how do you solve integration problems. So from the real difference between architect and developer, at least the way MuleSoft certifications are set up, is that architects make the requirements. So you ever have bad requirements? Well, I'm telling you to blame your architect. That's what the architect's job is to make good requirements, right? So integration architect is how do you design the requirements for a good integrate to solve a problem, integration solution. And then platform architect is the requirements for like all the different integrations that we're going to have here at this place, like at one of the MuleSoft customers. You're not just going to do one integration. You're going to do one and then another one, and you might have two or three going on at the same time, and you got to build a platform where all those integrations are going to live. That's the MuleSoft certified platform architect, which is probably the closest to the second topic we're going to talk about today, which is API led. There's a lot of API led on the platform architect certification. So those two are they're also kind of old. We started doing those in like 2017. So if I met you in 2019 or 18, that would have been they weren't that old certifications yet. They were kind of new. So yeah, that's all of those. And I don't know if anybody has any other any of them. Anybody want to brag in the chat about having some of these certifications already? We'll give you a shout out. You takes you. It's a tough test. They turn on like proctoring, so they turn your camera on and they like screen record, and they tell you to take your watch off. And I had to put my phone back there on the little shelf, like. Oh, and then I had to pick the laptop off and show them the whole room to make sure there was no notes on the wall and stuff. So they take it seriously when you take a MuleSoft exam. So that's the basic picture of all the certifications that MuleSoft offers. I don't see a lot of questions in the chat. What about you, Alex? Any place we should take this?
I guess we can get started with the .NET stuff and just watch the chat in case there are questions about certifications.
Can I invite you guys in your chat? And Diane's in there. I see her chatting. Diane and I we decided to try something new. MuleSoft stopped doing the exam prep sessions, so we decided to make our own integration quest. So if you want to, Diane she can talk in the chat about that if you guys want to come. But I'm teaching one in like July. I'm in two of them. I'm teaching one of them the second week of July, right after the 4th. So like the week of the 11th, I think. So if you guys want to come hang out and get ready for certification, that's how you do it.
How do they get to that like
integration.quest website?
Okay.
That's where we put it, and you can read about how it is. It's not just sign up and then wait till July, though. You sign up and you get to go to our Slack, and we get to practice questions. I've been posting practice questions on LinkedIn. I didn't do one today, so I'm going to do another one after the stream. But I'm using this could be a fun chat. I'm using ChatGPT. I've taught it how to make new questions for me. Now it's not perfect, but it'll give me a pretty good question, and then I can fix up all the answers, and then that's what I post on LinkedIn. But at least I don't have to start from a blank page every time. So I'm doing a bunch of practice exam questions. It's a lot of fun. And I've got a few people answering my questions on LinkedIn in the comments. So if you guys want to go give them a try, that'll give you a sense of what the exams are like. So to get MuleSoft certification, you have to take a test, and that's it. So we try to help you get ready for that, for how to do well on it.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Hope to see it soon.
Yeah, I hope to have some people in there. The more that come in our Slack, we're going to think of new stuff to do to help people get ready. So the first comers are going to help us figure out what the best. We don't know how best to help you. So if you sign up and come join us, then you can tell us.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Ryan, what is my LinkedIn username? Ryan Haig with no punctuation.
Let me look for it. Oh.
Yeah, there it is. Diane got it.
Nice.
Yeah. You can probably see in my activity log, you can see a bunch of practice questions. So give them a try and I'll tell you what I think.
Perfect. Alrighty. I guess we can continue with the .NET stuff.
The .NET stuff. So it's really API-led stuff. There's a whole story to it. So I have a client that doesn't like using Mule, and we're still working with him. It's been over a year. We're trying to teach him about it, and it's not really about Mule. It's really about point-to-point integration. And I feel like API-led is the sort of the antidote, the medicine for point-to-point coupling. So you get a big system, and there's too many there's too many dependencies between all the parts of the system, and anytime you touch one thing, everything else breaks, or it takes you forever to make a change and test it properly. And then you walk out the door and nobody knows how to edit your code. Like the maintainability is terrible when you have point-to-point integration. At least I've been doing software decades, and that's what I've seen over and over and over again. Is if you just build a monolith, that's especially for integration is like times 10 of the rest of software. If you build a monolith that ties your systems together, is like concrete, and your systems are stuck together, right? That's why I love MuleSoft, is it's good at this job called API led. But I found that like it was distracting me from, like, I ended up talking to these developers more about MuleSoft than about the point, which is to decouple your systems from each other, right? Which is API led. API led is a way to do that, where the dependencies don't require both parts to use the same programming language or platforms. So you can write a little GCP thing, you can write a little Azure thing, you can write a little, some old legacy thing on a mainframe, and they can work together without being stuck together. That's what I really wanted to help them do. So I decided, why don't I try it their way? I wanted to feel what is it like to write it in .NET, and I started building my system with .NET Core 7, and just for fun, not because I like it better yet. So far, I don't like it better, but just for fun, I figured I'd use OAS 3 instead of RAML, and Swagger Hub instead of Anypoint, just to try it all out, And it's worse. I'm on the MuleSoft stream, so I imagine you knew I was going to say that. But honestly, I actually think it's worse. Now, I haven't tried everything. There's Postman has kind of their way of doing it, and Kong has their way of doing it. So I haven't tried all of the different things yet. But at least the way I'm trying it so far, which is Swagger Hub for API Designer, and they don't really have a Anypoint Exchange thing. There's no dev portal at all on Swagger Hub. I mean, there is, but it's not very good. Sorry, Smart Bear, if you're watching. But your dev portal's terrible. That's my opinion. Exchange is really good. I mean, I'm kind of spoiled, right? But anyway, so I don't have a good dev portal there. So then I figured, okay, let's try Azure API Management, and their dev portal is actually kind of cool, but it's not built for an API lifecycle where you just like author the API and publish a version and it shows up on a portal. That lifecycle is really well connected on the Anypoint platform, right? And when I try to put it together out of .NET, it's awkward, and I really wanted to see, maybe they have a point. I want to see what their life is like to try to help them get closer to a decoupled integration system instead of just say it's my way or the highway, do it with Anypoint, right? So let's try it. So what I started doing was just, I gave up. There's no such thing as API Kit. Basically, the job that API Kit does in Mule app, which it glues the API spec to your app, and it makes like a front end, like to your application. There's not really a way to do that in .NET Core 7, I found. I've written a few, but I did do experience APIs, system APIs, and I have a place where once I build enough stuff, I'm going to make process APIs, but I don't need them yet because my app, I'm only using 5 systems so far. I'm using Auth0, Cosmos DB, PostgreSQL, and the front end is a Vue app. So I've got kind of a reasonably normal stack for like if you're building a SaaS application, which we are building one, but we're not announcing that in this Twitch stream, Diane. What I found is you can't really start with the Swagger or the OAS, and then from there scaffold an app and have that be the URL routing glue. It's not really going to do that job. So instead, you just write the Swagger, and I could show you guys if we're going to do some screen sharing. You write the Swagger, and it's just like documentation, and then you go in Visual Studio and you make the .NET Core app, and that you just have to make sure they match. That's it. There's not any way that there's a connection between the spec and the application code. And on the client side, it's a little better, but I haven't started using them. There's a thing called Swashbuckle. There's a way to make stubs, kind of like REST Connect connectors at Anypoint. There's a way to do that, but I haven't figured it out yet. And it's not like what you can kind of tell in the Microsoft documentation, the normal way that people do things, because it's like they have all these little tutorials and you go step by step by step by step. Well, there's definitely no such thing as client stubs in the in those instructions. Now there are, if you go Googling around, there are people trying to do it and they have tools that do it. but it's just not part of like the normal way .NET developers learn to write APIs. So anyway, I ended up kind of building from HTTP clients. If you build a Mule app to call a system API, you just use the HTTP connector. That's kind of what it's like. Except that's the other thing. They don't have in .NET Core. They don't have a such thing as Mule is reactive under the hood, so like it already handles asynchronous I/O, non-blocking I/O. So if I want that in .NET, like .NET's got this whole thing around async and await and async enumerables and tasks. Like you have to use this other flavor of .NET code, and some of the libraries, that's the first primary use of them, and other libraries it's not the primary use. So it's really like you have to think about it all the time. Am I going to use an async await, or am I just going to call the function? And there's absolutely no such thing as data weave. So you're just not using data weave. You're just writing C# for that part. So I've been trying it, but I really wanted to see, what is it like trying to do API led in the .NET normal way, whatever that would be. And I'm finding that they just don't do API led as a normal way of doing things. And that's why my conversation with my clients been so difficult is we're not aiming for the same thing. Like they don't understand that it's for them, point-to-point integration it's not like an option. It's not like they're choosing point-to-point integration. It's like the only way they know to do integration. It's the only way people think about integration in the .NET community. And I would love for some people in the chat to tell me that my tiny view into the .NET community has been abnormal, or maybe that's not the only way they do it there. But that's what I've been finding on the teams that I've been part of is they just want to build what they call a backend for front end and have it be exactly the same API all the way back to whatever API they're calling. So they don't want to touch, because transformation's hard because they don't have data weave. So they just want to make a .NET object and pass it back to the next layer and pass it back to the next layer until, like, the less they have to touch it, the better, and to them, that's simpler. To them, when I want to make a transformation, I'm asking to make the program more complicated. So bounded context API design is being, at least the way so far the conversation has been going, it seems like it has the reputation of being overcomplicated. It's like I'm trying to make things work more complicated by putting a experience API that doesn't speak the same language as the backend. So yeah, I don't know if you want to get into code or something. I didn't prepare a presentation. I think I prepared for kind of like a discussion mode, but we could go on a safari and see what kind of wild animals are in the .NET world if you want.
Yeah, we can try. It's okay if you don't have anything prepared. We can just experiment.
That's fun. All right, you want me to share my screen?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to show some non-MuleSoft products here. This is full disclosure. Let's see. I'm just going to share my whole screen. We are all we're all family here. Do we have a tunnel? Let me remove the tunnel. All right. So I suppose the right thing to start with will be the APIs, since I want to talk about API led this time. Let's see. Aha. So I went looking. The first thing I looked for was a kind of like an equivalent to Design Center. I wanted some place to go write my APIs, because API led starts with API design, right? So where am I going to design my APIs? I have found there's another kind of way to do it that's probably more normal in the .NET community. I started with a web-based API designer, kind of like, because I was used to that in the MuleSoft world. And now I think they prefer Git-based. They like GitOps. They call it GitOps. They want these specs to all be in a Git repo somewhere instead of in a web editor, which is, I don't actually feel like that's any worse or better. It's just I wasn't expecting it. That's all. So I started in Swagger Hub, and this is the Smart Bear product. They make SOAP UI and stuff. And I was pretty happy with the editing experience. There is no RAML. There's only OAS. So like I have a public API. Let me do my experience API here. So I started designing my experience API in OAS 3. And it is kind of a decent editing experience, right? You get this little swagger, kind of like API console over here, and a mocking service. So that's all, part of the development process for me. I did spend more time. I didn't really use the mocking service. I spent more time just reading the documentation, making sure I liked the way the API turned out. You know, so I use experience APIs and system APIs. So like I have system APIs for different parts. Like this one is sitting in front of an Azure Cosmos NoSQL database, right? So I made my system APIs. They don't have OAuth either. They're just free. I didn't put any authentication. We'll talk about API management shortly. That's way different. Hi, Shivani. I see you in the chat. Victor and Lucas. I missed the hellos. Welcome. We're looking at how to do API led. I tried it without MuleSoft, and we're going through that. So you can build the APIs here, and then there's not really a publishing. There's just a saving. You just save them, and then they go in this organization. You can make organizations in here, and then share them with your team. So that's one way to do it. And the next way I'm probably going to try is the Git-based way to see what that's like, but I haven't tried it yet. So then I want to make apps that do what these APIs say, and I have not found any way to do API first application design. That's not a thing in .NET, as far as I can tell. There's the other way around. They have it where you can start with a .NET Core application in Visual Studio. Let me get that up. And go the other way and generate your OAS, but they don't have like a starting with the OAS and going to your application. I'm trying to open Visual Studio. Oh, it's on my other screen, isn't it? I gotta find Visual Studio. How do you get it to come up here? There we go. So this is one of my system APIs in .NET, and there is no. So first of all, I better give you your orientation a little bit, because it took me a little while to get the way of thinking of .NET. But and I'm doing the Azure flavored version of .NET. So there's also, you don't have to use Azure with .NET. So I'm doing it the kind of cloud native Azure way. And I didn't want to do Azure Functions. I wanted to do my own containerized applications running in Azure Kubernetes service. So there's a little bit of Kubernetes and Docker in here that we probably won't go into. That's another nice thing about Mule, is that the runtime is they're already figured out for you, right? Well, with .NET, you got to think of what runtime do I want to run on, right? Do I want to do Azure Functions? Do I want to do where's StreamYard? I lost you guys. There it is. Do I want to do a Docker container, or do I want to run on a Windows server? You have to make choices about how you want to run it, and they mean a lot. They make a difference for the application. So, anyhow, what I chose to do is, since I was learning it, I decided to use the most recent version of ASP.NET Core, and there is a let's go away. Anyway, it's taking up too much room on my screen here. Yeah, there's basically a type of ASP.NET application you can make called minimal APIs that I liked a lot, so I thought I'd give it a try. So this is a .NET Core 7 minimal API, and you just have an entry point program called program.cs, and it's really just a bunch of these little routes. They're kind of like your API kit flows, except you are just mapping your path to a Lambda function, and you can use certain annotations. So it does a lot of the mapping automatically. There's a lot of automatic type-based mapping for you. So in Mule, you have to like tell it which URI parameters turn into which variables and stuff like that. Here, it's going to match on if you make a function parameter name, it's just going to match on like this here. This ID went right to here, and I didn't have to tell it that. It just figured it out by the name. I got a couple questions in the chat. One of them says, so only the code, no visual flow. Absolutely not. There is a whole different type of program on Azure called an Azure Logic App that does have a little bit of visual flow. But .NET Core 7 APIs don't have that. They're code only. So yeah, that's definitely one difference. And actually, I believe the .NET programmers I'm working with, this appeals to them. They rather have code and not graphical editing, So I don't know. It's just all programming languages are I don't have any prejudice for or against graphics, but They do, I think. So, and then Diane says, "Is there something like a POM file?" Yes. In .NET, it's a little more tightly connected to the editor. There's a file called a CS proj that's hidden from me here. So I guess I could just go. Let me go show you in the command line, right? So there's a file called your solution file, and that's kind of like your workspace a little bit in Anypoint Studio. And then there's a CS proj, and that's your actual build file. And and it's all of these, all of this over here comes from that. So .NET has a particular type of dependency management called NuGet that's a little bit like Maven in the MuleSoft world. And there's a NuGet config where you can point it to your own repositories and stuff. There's not really, it's sort of like Exchange. Azure, if you use Microsoft Azure, it has a tool called Azure Container Registries, which is almost like Exchange without the web part. It's just the dependencies part, you know? So I can put my dependencies of my own private things into Azure Container Registry, and then I can use my dependencies from there. So NuGet does that job, and it also gets you the public ones. Like in this case, I needed the Cosmos database driver and the Azure Identity System. There is no such thing as connectors because it's just code. So they're just dependencies. There's not a Mule event. There's not a flow. It's just code. So you're just writing the code. There is a whole something I really like about it is there's a dependency injection kind of way of thinking about everything. So up here before the builder.build line, you put in all these services. You add services, and what that does is you see down here in my API call, in my route, I have a Cosmos DB service. It needs to have this class, which I made, called Cosmos DB service, and it just kind of says it wants it right here. It says, I need one of these things. And then you can use it. It's just like there for you, right? But in order for that to happen, first it has to get added into the environment using this builder at the top. So there's kind of a two-phase startup to your application where you wire up all the services you need, and you say, here's how they all connect to each other. And then it's like recursive. The services can use their own extra dependencies that also come from the dependency injection framework. So you can build each one kind of like its own self-composed little thing. And they're not too long. I mean, this is what, 170 lines. And this does all the interaction with Azure Cosmos. It's almost like I built my own little connector for my Azure Cosmos database and decided how my data is going to look and everything in this service class here. So the translation from REST to the database in .NET is none. There's no data weave. So you have to just use classes that have properties and write code to turn one class into another class. And all of that's happening here. So like in this, like here's, like I made a feature to save some settings, right? So I have members of my website, and the members are going to have settings that we need to remember for each of our members. So to turn my settings values into the database, I had to actually build a little dictionary, which is kind of like a map or a data weave object. And then I had to go get the old copy out of the database, and then I had to put my new setting in it, and then I had to upsert it back into the database. And that's how you do that's basically the equivalent. I mean, it's not exactly a connector. It's not like a event processor in Mule, but it's not too bad. And I had to pay attention to all this async stuff. So you see my save settings is an async function, and async means it can use this await feature to do something like what Mule does with reactive programming, where it's not spinning when it's like waiting for a network request to come in or save a file to disk or something. The program can move on and do something else every time you put that little await keyword in there. But you have to tell it where to do that. And in Mule, it just does that part for you, which I think is a nice, creature comfort. It makes Mule programming a little less complicated, I think. But yeah, so that's kind of a tour of a system API, the way I've figured out so far in .NET. And there's really no connection back to the OAS yet. there's a way to add it in the program.cs. You can add a dependency up here for OpenAPI, and then you can tell this up here it's not going to work. Well, let me just do it. I'm going to take it back out. I don't like it, so I'm going to take it out when I'm done. But I'll show you what it looks like anyway. So you add a dependency to OpenAPI. If I do this, I think it's ASP.NET Core OpenAPI. Yeah. So I'm going to add that dependency. I think that's the right one. Yeah. I'm going to try live coding here. We're going to see how this goes. And then once it gets added, you can see it kind of pop up over here in the NuGet dependencies. Then you can do something like builder.services.add swaggergen. No, add API. And no, it's not that one. I must have got the wrong one. But there might be another dependency I forgot. Let's try swashbuckle. So if I had this prepared, I would already know. We're gonna do. I think the Swagger UI is that one actually gives me a like an API portal or an API console. So I'll add those and see if that gives me what I wanted. C# uses this cool thing called extension methods, and that's where these extra method calls come from. So once it's added, now I should be able to builder.services.add swagger. No, where did it go? Where's my swagger gen? Well, you guys are going to watch me look it up. .core 7 add swagger gen. There's a dependency I forgot about is what it was.
If it makes you feel better, I do that all the time.
So, no, I didn't get the dependency wrong. I didn't add my using. That's all it is. So the other thing you got to do, I believe, is once you've added the actual dependency to NuGet, you still have to do using Microsoft.ASP.NET Is it open? Oh, using swashbuckle. It does make me feel better, Alex. Swashbuckle.ASP.NET. And now we'll try builder.services.add swagger. No. Run this. That's what I want right there. Oh, as I need to add it and then I need to use it. Add swagger. Is it this one? Maybe I need to add Microsoft OpenAPI. I think in this tutorial it would tell you what the usings are. This one, minimal API is quick reference. No. I need to find out what the using is. This is from Microsoft. Oh, Open API tools. Here we go. You know, I'm going to have to Google for exactly using, right? Good old Stack Overflow, right?
Yep.
Swashbuckle.ASP.NET Core.Swagger UI. Let's try that. Yeah, I thought I did that one. Maybe I just need this one. Ah! I want that to resolve. You know,
I mean, we can already see this is more difficult than MuleSoft.
It's not exactly drag and drop. It's just that the open API stuff is not. Oh, here we go. For the .NET code you need to install for packages, it's not. It's just not the normal way things are done. So it's almost like it's almost like it's a little more. You have to go figure out yourself how to do it because it's not like in all the. Is it this one? Aha. It's not like in the tutorials, right? So let's see. I'm not finding it. So anyway, the reason I'm not finding it is I decided after I got it all working, I didn't like it. And here's why I didn't like it. If I make a mistake in here, and so originally I had been using an endpoint called /health, and it turned out I'm using Microsoft Azure Kubernetes service, and its default is health Z. Now I could go try to figure out in Azure Kubernetes service how to make it do /health instead of /health Z, but that was a bunch of Kubernetes time I didn't want to spend. So instead, I could just make my apps change the endpoint to be health Z here, and then then Kubernetes can find them because it has to be able to check the health endpoint if it's going to let the traffic in to Kubernetes. So I wanted to change it to health Z. The Swagger and I went in Swagger Hub and I changed it to health Z on one of these. I forgot which one I did, but because there's no, I think it was probably this one. Let's see, or I took it out. Yeah, Victor, I probably should too. Close and open everything. So I would just come in here. I didn't do it on this one, so I'll add it to. So I could just add health Z as an endpoint, right? Get, and then responses. Oh, you have to put summary on an open API. It's like you have to have a summary. No, you don't. Not a summary, a description. And I'm going to put the summary does this here. You don't have to have a summary, but you have to have some of these descriptions are required. I'm going to put I'll check. And then responses, and you have to put a little different than RAML. You have to put it in quotes for the responses, and they have to have descriptions. This is the weird part. Yeah. So I'm just gonna say, right. So I can add that and 500 for description. Something's wrong. So I can add this here and. Then if I go in the application and just put health, everything's fine. There's no way anything's going to have an error or anything. It's just going to be fine. And then what happened to me was I deployed a Kubernetes and it's not coming up. It says it can't find the health probe. The probe isn't successful. I come back to my Swagger. I'm like, well, I got it here. Well, it doesn't matter because it doesn't match. And nothing is telling me that it doesn't match. It just doesn't match. So I have to remember to come check these. So I'm still looking for a good way to glue together the Open API spec that I write by hand and this one. So the reason I didn't like SwaggerGen is it solves the problem backwards. If I had /health here, it would make me a Swagger page that says /health instead of making this have to match the Swagger page. It's backwards. And it's only backwards because I've been doing API led for years. And I expect to be able to write my interface first and then my code second. But that's not the normal way in the .NET side of things. So that's the story for API-led design and development. And then the story for API management, I don't know, we could do a whole other Twitch stream probably. It's a lot weirder. It's nothing. There's a couple of competitors out there that are sort of like MuleSoft. I think Apogee and Kong are kind of in the same region of API management. When I went really looking for how do .NET people do API, what they call API gateways, they have a framework. I thought it was a platform. They have a framework called Calico. I think it's called Calico. Yeah, there it is, Calico. No, is that it? Wait a minute. Is it Calico? Now I forgot the name of it. Let me see. .NET API Gateway. I'll find it. It'll be in my Google right here. It is Ocelot. I got the wrong cat type. It's Ocelot. Um, and it doesn't run on a separate process like a Flex Gateway or like Kong Gateway. It runs in your .NET code, sort of like Mule Auto Discovery, except there's no other server doing the policies. The policies are here, like designed with my application. So I was going to use this for my JWT auth and my rate limiting and stuff, but it's not the same thing. So there's a whole long thing we could talk about all the different ways API management is done out there. But in the .NET world, I think they really just want to build a .NET program and have it be the source of truth of everything. The API gateway, the API spec, everything. I think the way that so far the way I'm seeing it is the .NET way of thinking is you open up Visual Studio, and that's where you drive everything from, and everything is from here. And if you have to go to a web page or if you have to go to a config file, or you start to be annoyed about it. Like that's not the normal process as far as I can tell. Now I'm new. I'm totally willing to admit I'm a MuleSoft guy coming back to .NET. The last time I really wrote stuff in .NET was 2006. So I'm probably don't deserve to call myself a .NET programmer. I'm just learning how to do it again, with C# and Azure. The question says, did you use DataWeave in .NET? No, and it's impossible. DataWeave, it's going to be open source one of these days. There's a Slack that you can go talk to NFL SETI and Mariano Achaval about it. It's not done yet, going open source. And when it does, it's a Java engine. So it won't work in .NET. At least until somebody in the open source community wants to make an engine for it, then they might. But right now, it has to be Java to work with DataWeave. So no, the way I did transformations here, I'll show you this one. I had actually, there's another project that might be better. I had an Experience API that was going to do a direct call to a system API. Is it down here somewhere? Is that one or this one? There it is. Yeah, there it is, right here. So I needed to transform. Here, I'll show you. I'll show you the transformation. Super simple. Super simple. Don't save. So here's I needed to make a webhook so we use Auth0 for our logins, and I wanted it to notify me when people logged in. And then I want to go write that down in a database somewhere, right? So I made here it is, right? A little public endpoint /event/login, and it takes the ID of the user that logged in, it's called a subject, and a timestamp. That's it. A simple little JSON on a post, right? And this is exactly the sort of weird thing that I made a data model here, and the next layer down doesn't have the same data model because it doesn't make sense for it to have the same data model. You go to the next level, what it's going to do is create an action with the name of login, and the member ID goes in the URL, right? It's a transformation where you got to take one of the JSON fields and use it in the URI parameter, and one of the JSON fields goes in here, and then one of the JSON fields is hard-coded. So it's a simple transformation. In DataWeave, this would take you no time. You can all go do this right now in the DataWeave playground and come back and put it in the chat, probably, right? It's not that. It's a two-field transformation. But in .NET, the way I had to do it was I made a class called, I think it was login action. Yeah. So here it is. I had to make a class with subject and timestamp, and the spelling of these fields matters because that's where the JSON comes from. So I made a class called login action, and it has a subject and a timestamp. And then in order to transform it to what I need to send to the next level, I made a property called action event. So it makes a new class called action event, and it passes the right fields in. And the action event has to have the model of the next layer, right? It's got to have a name and a timestamp and some details that aren't going to be filled out. So basically this constructor right here and the structure of this class is how you do transformations. So you may notice that it's a lot of lines. I mean, it doesn't seem like that many lines of code to a .NET developer, but how many lines of code would this be in DataWeave? I mean, nothing, right? It'd be like 2 lines or 3 lines, and it'd be super easy to read. But in order to do it in .NET, I needed 2 classes with a bunch of spellings of the properties a certain way. Now, I did classes. There is a shorter way to do it in .NET called records, but they have limitations where I can't make an extra method. Like I couldn't put this on there. Records can't have a method that gets added to them. They can only have data like a struct. So anyway, it's not really that much code. A .NET programmer would look at what I have in front of you if they're watching this stream, and they'd be like, "Come on, that's nothing. That's simple." I don't think they know how simple it is in DataWeave. That's what. It's not that this is bad. It's that, come on, we can do better than this. That's really what I miss. So yeah, no, Diane, there's no DataWeave. Sorry. And it might be, there's another language you can use for a .NET Core app. You can use F#. And it could be that F# is a lot cooler, and I haven't tried it yet. So, when you go try a new platform, you don't always know what you're missing. So it might be that the way I did it with C# meant I ended up like this. So maybe F#'s got a little better way to do transformations. It might be worth looking into. But yeah, I think it's on the MuleSoft community stream. I definitely think I miss MuleSoft, or at least I can see what it gives me an appreciation, a little gratitude. I don't take for granted all the good stuff we have in the MuleSoft stack. So what else do you guys want to see? This was the short and very, very short and sweet safari through the wild, the wilds of the .NET jungle.
We don't have any comments yet, but yeah, I don't know. Is there something else you wanted to try, or that was it?
No, it was fun to be on here. I haven't been on this stream in a while.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah. I don't know that language. It doesn't look like, I've been learning Spanish. That looks like Portuguese, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's Portuguese.
I'm back in civilization, yes. Yeah. Well, if someone wants to translate, I'd love to know what that means. What else? So, if you guys want to do more of this stuff, you could put comment on the stream, and we can do another session. Maybe do API management. I'm also gonna I'm gonna try a few more things. So maybe we'll see where this goes. I am going to Dreamforce 2023, Shivani. So you guys can come see me there, hang out in San Francisco in September. Or you can come hang out on Zoom in July if you want to get some help getting certified. We're doing that too. Don't worry, I'm not leaving us for C#. I'm trying it to really give it a chance, but I like MuleSoft a lot.
Yeah. Every time that someone makes me do Java, I'm like, why? Why should I though?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you done one of these sort of like, here's how you would do it in Java?
I'm not interested.
You're not. It's like pain. I know. Yeah, the painful way.
Yep.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. I think I haven't seen how to do another API in like, how many years? Maybe more than 6 years. Like, wow. I've been doing MuleSoft for so long. I haven't tried anything else. So it was refreshing. I didn't think that it would be so hard. But it looks very hard. So
I'm new to it. It's probably easier the more you do it, but yeah, I'm new to it. I'm definitely we could do something in a couple months. I'm trying it from scratch with either Kong or Postman. Though they both have the idea that you start with an IDE for your API and you save the spec in GitHub. So like that's different than Swagger Hub. And I'm gonna see what that's like. So that we could do another stream for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it possible? Oh, we got a question. Shivani needs to renew her certifications. Which one am I focusing on? Oh, I'm doing MCPA and MCIA because those are the ones I teach all the time. Ryan Denny, he and I were in the very first MuleSoft Train the Trainer when there was the very beginning. He's going to do MCD2 and we're going to do MCIA together, kind of an old, bring the band back together type of thing. And gosh, I think Diane's doing MCPA with me. So hi, Diane. um, and um, and Diane's doing MC Associate. So we're doing one for Associate. We don't know. We're going to see what people are interested in. Come sign up and see on integration.quest. That's Giovanni's other question. Um, and you can also hang out with us in our Slack too and just prepare that way. And then Victor says, is it possible to develop .NET code within MuleSoft projects like using Python? I think there is a .NET connector. I have not tried it yet, but I think there's a .NET connector, and I don't know if it works in Cloud Hub or if you have to run on a Windows server or something. So we would need to try that too. .NET runs on Mono, so probably would work on Cloud Hub. I've only heard about it in architecture class when people asked me about it, and we went and looked it up. So let's look it up. This is what I do in class, so we'll just look it up now. I haven't used it, so I cannot vouch for it. It's just that I am aware of it. So let's go look. Sign in with one of my many. I have a few logins to any point. Let's see. Let's go to Exchange. And let's see, because maybe the .NET connector is, maybe it can run out of .NET Core app or something. I don't know. So let's see .NET. And try searching for that. I found on Google, yeah, see, that wasn't very, because it just finds net. But on Google, I can search for .NET spelled out, and that seems to work. Yeah, see, there we go. So just if you're searching for .NET, .NET seems to be the way to do it. Native .NET code using JNI. Wow. I don't know if that's going to run a ASP.NET Core application or not, though. Let's see. Connector user guide is generally helpful. It looks like it's more like the Java connector, just for like hitting .NET classes. Like, I don't know if it would really hook you up to the entire .NET Core application the way I would want to do for this. Plus, .NET runs a lot. You don't need to use cores, MuleSoft cores, to run .NET. You can just run it on an Azure function or something, a lot cheaper probably. I mean, it looks like it's possible, but it doesn't look like a good idea. That's my opinion.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, I think there are no more questions. And just Diane mentioned, yeah, you are doing 5 certification readiness sessions, MCIA Associate, MCD1, MCD2, MCPA, and MCIA.
And we're really just interested, like, we're trying this out. What we want to try to teach people integration. So whatever you guys want to learn, MuleSoft is going to do what they're doing. They're going to make MuleSoft training classes, and they're going to keep making better and better ones and more of them. We want to teach all of integration. So whatever people want to learn, we're going to try to make classes for at Integration Quest. So if you want to send us an email at info@integration.quest and say what you want to learn, I'd love to know. And I think people learn by doing what I just did, by going like and trying it and trying to hook things up together, and they don't fit. So then you got to go wire them together different and write some code of your own. I want to make it possible for you guys to learn things like that. So we're not sure how best to make those, whether it's classes, whether it's interactive tutorials, whether it's videos, and we're very interested in your ideas.
Awesome. Starting July 11th.
Yeah.
We will add hyperautomation and catalyst in the future. Nice. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate your time and also handing the invitation to learn more about other things. So that's cool.
I appreciate you hosting me.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see later the API management.
Sure, I'm happy to do that once I figure out how to do it.
I'm sure it's awful, but we can try to see it. Alrighty. Well, yeah, that's all. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Remember to go to twitch.tv/MuleSoft_community and follow us there so you can see the previous recordings, you can see the schedule for the future live streams, and you receive notifications as soon as we are live. So, yeah, that's all. All right. Thank you so much, Ryan. See
Thank
you
you.
later.
Bye.
Bye.